So today we're tackling a really big question facing businesses, especially now. How, and maybe more importantly, where do you build your team?
Yeah, it's become incredibly complex, hasn't it?
It really has. We're diving into the whole onshore versus offshore hiring decision, looking ahead to 2025. And, our sources this week, they're saying it's about way more than just saving money.
That's absolutely right. I mean, what's really interesting is how remote work has just kind of blurred all the old lines.
hmm
So this deep dive, it's really designed for you, the listener, to help you navigate all these nuances. Things like agility, getting those specialized skills, cultural fit.
Scalability, too.
And scalability, exactly. All crucial stuff when you're making these big calls for your company.
Okay, so let's jump right in then. Offshore hiring. When we talk about that for 2025, what does that landscape actually look like based on what we've seen?
Well, essentially, it boils down to tapping into talent pools outside your own country.
Yeah.
Often, the goal is about optimizing costs, let's be honest.
Sure.
The research we looked at, it consistently points to places like Pakistan, the Philippines, Eastern Europe, Latin America.
Yeah.
These are key spots companies are looking at.
Right. Common destinations.
And like you'd expect, the potential for, pretty significant cost savings is a huge driver.
And significant. I mean, one source we saw mentioned potential savings up to 60%. That's massive.
It really is. That kind of number can totally reshape how a company plans its finances.
But you said it's not just about the budget. What other big pluses did our analysis pull out?
Oh, definitely not just budget. Beyond the cost thing, the sources really hammer home the access you get to a global talent market.
Okay.
Think about this. Our analysis found, for instance, a real struggle finding specialized cybersecurity folks locally. Like, hiring times were over 6 months on average.
Wow.
But by looking offshore, companies could tap into this pool of certified experts and slash that hiring time by more than half.
That's a huge difference.
It is. And then there's the time zone thing. You can actually use that strategically, Set things up for almost 24/7 productivity. That can be a serious competitive edge depending on your business.
Okay, that really paints a picture of the potential there. But what about the flip side? What are the built-in challenges that our sources flagged? What should people listening be really careful about?
Right, the downsides. Well, the research is pretty clear on a few key things. Communication pops up again and again. It's a big one.
Makes sense.
Time zones, language barriers. They can definitely slow things down, make seamless collaboration tricky. And cultural differences play a big part, too. Our sources mention things like different work styles, how people communicate, even how they approach problems. If you don't manage that carefully, it can mess with team cohesion, efficiency.
Yeah, I can see that.
And we absolutely can't forget data security. Different countries, different data protection laws, so you need to be extra vigilant about compliance, security protocols, all that stuff when you're working with offshore teams.
Those are really critical points. Okay, let's switch gears. Hiring inside your own country onshore. What's that looking like for 2025? What are the main benefits our sources are pointing to?
So onshore hiring, basically recruiting talent within your own borders. Could be in an office, could be remote, but still domestic, or using local agencies.
Gotcha.
The main advantages that came up in our analysis really center on easier communication. Makes sense, right? Shared language, same or similar time zones, generally aligned culture.
Yeah.
It all tends to make collaboration smoother right from the start.
Yeah, that tracks. And our sources also mentioned something about onboarding.
Exactly. Onboarding often tends to be quicker with onshore hires. They usually just get the local market, the standard ways of doing business. Plus, from a legal standpoint, navigating labor laws, taxes, IP protection, it's generally just more straightforward when everyone's operating under the same legal umbrella.
Okay, so onshore offers those clear benefits. But what are the drawbacks? What might make companies look offshore instead?
Well, the number one challenge that kept coming up in the sources, cost. It's usually just more expensive.
Right.
Salaries, benefits, general overhead, they all tend to be higher for onshore folks. And then there's the talent pool issue, especially in really hot sectors.
Like AI, cybersecurity.
Exactly. AI, cybersecurity, advanced software development. The demand for skilled people often just outruns the local supply, so you get intense competition for talent, hiring bottlenecks.
And that's where looking offshore suddenly seems pretty attractive again.
Precisely. That wider talent pool becomes a really compelling alternative then.
Okay, so we've got these two sort of distinct models, offshore, onshore, each with its pros and cons. But interestingly, our research pointed to this big trend emerging for 2025, hybrid hiring. What's that all about? Why is it gaining steam?
Yeah, this is fascinating. It's about strategically blending the strengths of both. Hybrid hiring, like our sources show, often means having your project leads or key strategic roles onshore, and then combining them with offshore teams for support or specific functions. Think about, say, a U.S. tech startup. They might have a local product manager who really gets the target market, but then they work with a super skilled, maybe more cost-effective development team based in Eastern Europe.
Yeah, I see. Best of both worlds, kinda.
Sort of, yeah. It lets them keep that strategic oversight and client communication strong onshore while grabbing specialized tech skills, maybe at a lower cost, offshore.
That sounds really practical, actually. And the research suggests technology is really making this possible now, right? These distributed teams.
Absolutely. Tools like Slack, Jira, Zoom, they've gotten so good. They really enable that seamless communication, project tracking, collaborating in real time, even across oceans.
Right.
So if you connect that to the bigger picture, it's about being really deliberate, thinking, okay, which roles need that deep cultural understanding or face-to-face collaboration here onshore, and which roles can we effectively handle offshore, maybe saving some money or finding new skills we can't get locally.
Okay, so it's about smart allocation of talent, really.
Yeah.
Now, for you listening, maybe trying to puzzle out the best way forward for your organization in 2025. What are the key questions you should be asking based on our deep dive here?
That's the crucial part, isn't it? Our analysis points to several key factors you've got to weigh up. First off, your company's size and budget. That's fundamental.
Sure.
A smaller startup might, have to prioritize cost savings much more than a big enterprise with established processes and scale needs.
Right.
Then there's the type of work. How complex are your projects? Super sensitive stuff or projects needing really deep local market knowledge? Maybe better onshore.
Okay.
How much flexibility do you need? If you think you'll need to scale up or down quickly, sometimes offshore partners offer more agility there.
That's a good point.
Compliance and security, we touched on that. If you handle sensitive data, that's a huge consideration. Where is that data going?
Yeah.
And finally, how fast do you need to get things done? Your timed market goals. Sometimes getting a local team together can be faster. Other times, tapping into readily available offshore teams can actually speed up development.
So it really, really comes down to looking hard at your own specific situation, your company's needs, your strategic goals.
Absolutely. The big message for 2025 that really comes through from all the sources isn't just where you hire. It's more about how well you build and manage these distributed teams wherever they are.
Right, the management piece.
Exactly. Like offshore hiring, yeah, it can let you scale fast, but you need really solid onboarding and super clear communication for it to actually work. On the other hand, onshore gives you more control, that built-in cultural alignment, but it might limit how fast you can grow. And it can definitely strain the budget, especially if you're fighting for talent in competitive fields.
This has been really clarifying. So for you listening, as you're thinking about your hiring strategy for 2025, remember to really weigh those offshore benefits costs, global talent, maybe that 24/7 productivity.
Yeah, weigh those against the communication hurdles, the cultural bits, the data security risks.
And then on the onshore side, think about the easier communication, maybe faster onboarding, the clearer legal stuff.
But balance that against the higher costs and maybe struggling to find those new skills locally.
And don't forget that hybrid model. It
Yeah.
seems like a really interesting way to maybe get the best of both, mitigating some risks.
Precisely. There's just no single best answer here. The right choice. It completely depends on your company's specific context, your budget, your goals.
So as you're making these decisions for the year ahead, maybe chew on this. How are those buzzwords we keep hearing, global workforce management, remote hiring strategy, tech talent shortage, scalable hiring solutions, how are they actually influencing your thinking? How can you best use this growing flexibility, this sort of borderless future of hiring, to really drive value for what your organization needs? That's the big question to keep exploring.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to